All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to REC 2024. My name is Samira Muhammad, and I will be your moderator for this session titled, Where Are You Going and How Will You Get There? So, this session is part of our organizational and leadership track, and we are delighted to have you here. We are honored to have our distinguished panel of experts with us today who will share their knowledge and experiences. Allow me to introduce them. Um, I'm going to start with the best. And my friend, Edric Mendoza, he's from the Philippines. He's an edupreneur. I don't know, did you coin that term, Edric? Okay. Focused on home education, personal finance, and family life. He is chairman of both Homeschool Global and Homeschool Association of Philippines Island. He is a co-author of Why We Should Homeschool and a member of the GHEX board. So please welcome Edric. Thank you for joining. And we are honored to have our next member, John Baptiste. I was just making sure I won't butcher your name. John Baptiste founded an association in 2020 to raise awareness of homeschooling with the French authorities and to defend numerous families who are having their applications to homeschool refused since the new law on separatism was passed. He and his wife have been homeschooling their 3 boys for 12 years. The boys have never been to school. Great. They are also the authors of book Homeschooling, A Fundamental Freedom. Please welcome John Baptiste. Our last but not the least, Stephanie Lambert has joined us from USA. She was homeschooled before it was officially legal. Today, 750,000 students, Texas, are homeschooled in a movement of parents pioneered. Since graduating, she's volunteered and staffed in political campaigns and she has since dedicated herself to serving through her church community and through her work with Texas families. Please welcome Stephanie Lambert. So thank you all for being here. Now, let's get started. So today's topic is setting up a successful organization requires careful planning and strategic thinking. It's not just about having a great idea, but it's also about building a solid foundation that will support your vision and mission for years to come. Today, we'll explore the critical components necessary for establishing this foundation and ensuring your organization is equipped to achieve its goal. And this is honestly something that sometimes people miss in forming their organization, the vision to see how you see your organization. So without further ado, let's begin by hearing from each of our panelists. I would like each of you to provide a brief overview of your background, quick one, and share your experience with setting up on our advising organizations. Specifically focus on the key elements that contribute to a solid foundation of those organizations. Let's start with Edric. Could you please share your insight? Let me give you your mic.
Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for being here, guys. So in my part of the conversation, I've been asked to speak a little bit about purpose and goals. What I'm going to do is take as much of the 10 minutes I have, because I want to honor our time, and do just that. And as I start off with purpose, I'm sure some of you have heard already Mark Twain's famous lines. The 2 most important days of your life are the day you were born and the day you figure out why. So purpose is a big question, right? As an organization, what I encourage any leader here to do is as you are setting up, or maybe you're already in the leadership of an organization, go back to this, hey, you know what? Why are we doing what we do? Figure it out and keep reinforcing it. It may change and tweak. It might be tweaked through the years, but it's so important that it's clear to you, it's clear to all your stakeholders, and it's clear especially to the team that you're leading. So figure that out, keep reinforcing it. But here's something that I've learned in the spaces I've been privileged to lead, whether it's the national organization or in the private organization that we have been building and is actually in the exhibitor hall outside. even at the GHEX level, I realized that unless you figure it out for yourself first, it's very hard for you to then fit yourself into that leadership role and move the organization with you. I like what one of the speakers was saying earlier in our panel, how we're really moving into a world of peer rather than authority, right? Instead of the traditional sage on the stage, it is now really a guide on the side. So how do you journey alongside the people that you lead and the people that you serve and the other stakeholders that you're also probably serving upwards, unless you figure out, what is it for me? Why am I really doing this? So there's so many different frameworks that are out there to figure out purpose. One of those that has been most helpful for me from an organization standpoint and from a personal standpoint is one that's drawn from Jim Collins. Jim Collins is a business author. He wrote a book called Good to Great, Built to Last. A lot of these staples that are, I would say, textbooks now for many people who are studying it or in business. He said this: there is a hedgehog principle, and I want to share with you the hedgehog model that he uses. He says that many good companies that outlast their competitors and become great have asked themselves, what is our core? What is our hedgehog? And the reason he coined the hedgehog is because if you know the hedgehog as an animal, it has one go-to move to thrive and survive, and that is to curl up into a ball. So unless the organization figures out what is your one main go-to, you can innovate, you can create, you can do so many things, but unless you go back to that core thing, that purpose, why are you doing what you're doing, then you will be outlasted by competitors and other organizations and other companies. So bringing that to the personal note, it's a very similar chain of thought. There are three main circles that comprise the hedgehog. So what is it that you as an organization or you as a person are deeply passionate about? What keeps you up at night? Why are you all rallying behind that? Obviously, it's homeschooling, but in what way? In what unique vantage point? And then there are the skills. So looking at what do you have? What are the resources? What do you have available at your disposal? What are those things that will allow you to be able to pursue that passion, right? So if it's an individual, I like the word affirm. Because you might think you're a good singer, but your best friend will say, I don't think you can carry a tune. So affirm skills are critical. The third is then economic engine. So if you're an organization, there might be different streams of income. Ask yourselves and write those things down. And as you're putting these things down, what are your passions? What are your firm skills? And what are your economic engines? What are the different streams? The intersection of all three is then your hedgehog. You can pursue a lot of things as an organization or as an individual, but unless it's clear what that main thing is, then it'll be hard for you to say, this is my why, this is our organization's why. As a side note, I've just added these interesting points here. A person pursuing something they're passionate about that pays the bills, but they're not really good at, they end up in mediocrity. People that pursue what is something that pays the bills, something that they're good at, but it's not something that they're deeply passionate about, is your classic burnout. And then those that pursue, I am very passionate about this. It is a skill, but it doesn't pay the bills. This is your classic starving artist, and we don't want that for any organization either. You're not viable, right? So this has been helpful for me in helping figure out, how can I know what to pursue for me? What is the main thing for me? And as you do that, does that then align with the organization that you're leading? Because if it doesn't align, then it's going to be very hard for you to move things forward. So find that fit as far as purpose is concerned. What is the core thing of the organization that you're leading? What is your core thing? What is your purpose? And see that those things lock in place. As far as goals are concerned, let me speak a little bit about that. Again, we have a very short window, and I'm looking at our time checkers. Am I still on track? Okay. So as far as goals are concerned, you want to ask yourself, once I know what my purpose is, and there'll be other conversations about mission, etc., from the other amazing panelists here, who I will give more time to. So let me wind down my conversation with you by talking a little bit about goals. What is critical in the goals is, there's so many ways to skin this, but find a framework that works for you and then just get started. What helped me and the organizations that I'm behind is a model from again, I hope you don't mind, it is from the corporate world, from a company called Procter & Gamble. They created what's called the OGSM. This is decades ago. I'm not sure how updated it is, but it's something I've stuck to and kept using through the years. And as I like the model because not only is it very practical and very detailed, it responds to the statement you're seeing on the screen, which is so true. If any of you have read the book Atomic Habits by Jim Clear, it is a wonderful perspective. He says we do not rise to the level of our goals, but we fall to the level of our system. So if you have a goal that isn't well thought through or crafted, then it's going to be very hard for your whole team and yourself to go behind that. Does that make sense? Okay, so let me give you practical ways to do that and ignore the animation. It was transposed from another software. So OGSM, this is the framework that helps objective. What is the big banner goal for your organization? I like to say, what is your yearly goal? So it's 2024. If you follow school years, what is your school year? Big goal, what is that big thing that you have? Or it can be even long-term. What is the overarching long-term thing? The goals in this framework are then specific ways to achieve the objective. And to make it even clearer, the strategies are, well, how do you get there? How do you achieve these subset goals of the overarching objective? And then finally, what does not get measured does not materialize, so it needs to be measured. What are the specific ways you will make sure that that strategy actually translates? Let me give you an example. This is very broad, very ambitious. I was looking at our 2012, that's a lot of 20s. 2012 goals back in the day when, as you heard Gerald say earlier, I'm an Energizer buddy. So we were looking at achieving 1 million homeschoolers in 20 years. And so as part of the phases, there's a lot of them. Just give you an example. So some goals, goal 1, phase 1, let's build a team. Goal in phase 2 is to build communications, right? How do we get the message out there? How do we help people realize that we're here to journey alongside them and help them understand the life-changing benefits of home education? And then some example of strategies. So the strategy for building a team would be to raise up and sustain a winning team. So what would it cost? Will you have volunteers, full-time people? So assess that. That's part of the strategy. And if you look at the measure, we wanted the team structure in place as early as Q1 because without the team, you can't execute. So strategy number 2, ensure that there is a very focused target market. Who exactly are we trying to serve? If you want to reach 1 million people, will these be people of faith, not of faith, Filipinos, mixed? Be very clear. So establish that target market, and once that is clear who you want to reach, then you can establish the mission and vision in doing so. So that's the strategy, mission, vision, and then what services or products, if you will we then offer to reach them to get 1 million homeschoolers in 20 years. The measure for strategy number 2 would then be putting a timeline in place. We want to get all of that done with the team in Q1. And what can happen on a practical note for you is you actually put persons involved. Who is responsible for this? So today, given the way that technology is, the teams that I lead, we use Monday.com. I'm not sure you know that platform. So there are various softwares out there that help you make sure that the goal has a system in place of how to get there. Does that make sense? You track it. So that's number 2. In phase 2, as an example here, we want to get people to know more about homeschooling and the proper definition. It's not for people who have nowhere else to go, for people who have no money, for people who have, all sorts of illnesses, etc., that do not allow them to go to school, which was a stereotype we had to battle. And I'm sure those that have been leading for decades, you know what I'm talking about. So we need to create positive awareness, and the goal, the measure we had, if we wanted 1 million in 20 years, it was ambitious. 500,000 people in year 1. Thanks to technology, you can do that with a lot of different content ads and just broad reach, right? So that would be a measure. And then finally, undertake long-term massive PR campaigns. So it's not just year 1, but going the distance. If it's a 20-year goal, we need to keep generating positive perspective. And so if you're familiar with a funnel, so how do you hit the top line? What is the conversion from people who know to then people who will ask questions? And from those that ask questions, who will then say, yes, I'm interested. I want to be part of what you're doing. That becomes part of the million. So that's the funnel goals in Q1. So this is an example, and by no means the best way to do it, but I wanted to just give you a picture of a framework that has worked for us and worked for me personally in helping make sure that if we know our purpose and we know the other components of organization development, which you will hear from our other panelists, this is one way to get the goals set up with clear pathways to achieve that, at least at a high level, so that we do not rise to the level of our goals, but we're able to fall to good systems that everybody can go behind. Let me close with this thought. One of the things I like to do as an Energizer bunny is frequently, often, we have a sign of why we're doing what we're doing. We have a sign, a picture, literally in our office facilities, our main banner objective, and we see a countdown to achieving that. And then we ask ourselves almost regularly, why do we do what we do? And I like to tell my team, and I say this with all sincerity, I tell them, guys, if we are not clear on why we're doing what we're doing, and if this is not something that resonates with you, then you do not belong in this team. Because we're driven by our why. This is why we get up at night. This is why we will go through the distance. This is why we will stand in front of legislators or the Department of Education, even if they're screaming at our face. Because sometimes the money isn't worth it, let's be honest. And if you're volunteering, all the more reason. There's got to be a deep why. So that is so important. Figure out your purpose and keep going and repeating that to yourself, to your team, so that you can go the distance.
Thank you. Thank you, Edric, for your valuable insight. That was amazing. Thank you. So I would like to ask John Baptiste now to share your experience and insight. John.
Thank you very much. So to answer to the question, how make a board, I need the...
Okay.
Please. Yes. So here is my homeschooling family. Okay. And I want to give you my little, not testimonial, but testimony about how to selecting board members, how to do. So on the day that the French president announced that he wanted to ban homeschooling completely, it was 2 October 2020, I was alone at home with my son Joseph. We took a time of prayer together, and I come across this word in Maccabee. He enhanced the glory of his people, and like a giant, he put on his breastplate. He girded himself with the armor of warfare, engaging in battle and protecting the camp by his sword. So I said to myself that I had to defend my camp, my house, the school at home, and I asked God to send me some Christian brother to do that, because I'm Christian. If you are not Christian, you are not Christian, but I'm Christian, because I couldn't do it on my own. And 3 days later, following his prayer, I was put in touch with a lawyer who had just written an article in a major newspaper in France defending this freedom. I was told that not only was he a Christian, but that he had just moved in my own town in Tours. So for me, it was an answer of God. And I called him and I told him if he wanted to set up an association, and he said I had the same idea. So I asked him to be the president of Liberté Education, and he was okay, of course. 15 days later, we were speaking at the National Assembly, French National Assembly, with the help of my local deputy, who was a member of the same political party as the president. So for me, it was another answer, because it was incredible to pull it off. And in fact, he had come to ring the doorbell at home during the election campaign. And he told me he remembered it, because we have spoken a long time, and he wanted to support our association. That's why it's also important to speak, to meet deputy or political people to speak about homeschooling and why we like to do that. And so it was the start of a great adventure. So maybe 3 keys for selecting board member: choosing people, the importance of having a small, very flexible management team that can liaise quickly and take swift decisions. So when I have a difficulty with Liberté Education, I call Hubert, the president, and very fast we decide. It's very important to have that, because we can go forward. And also sharing role well. For example, for me, it's communication. So I communicate, I use Twitter, the social media, etc., the website. And Hubert, the president, is a lawyer. So it's not the same role. And to finish, relying on volunteers who can train and given responsibility by involving them in our work. So in the photo, you can see Pascaline, who was in the last JEX in Zagreb. And we are in the French ministry for a meeting. So I asked her to come with me. And it's very important because we need to have volunteers who know how it's work with the authorities. And about the purpose, so for a national upskilling organization like Liberté Education, this could be helping families to deal with the authorities. So it's a need for a dedicated team. Also promoting homeschooling to general public, based, for example, on alternative teaching methods and children needs, and influencing public authorities, institutions, and politicians. It can be also the importance of being organized and well structured in order to influence public authority to gain, in fact, legitimacy. Sorry for my bad accent. Then, as a priority, work on the obstacle. For example, in France, the issue of socialization is first, like we have just heard in the last meeting. And to provide a substantiated response through publication, a blog. So, for example, it's our blog about home education in our website. And after about the vision, so we need a vision that encompasses the whole issue, global, in a comprehensive way, and that gives priority to the crucial points. At Liberté Education, we have found that a lack of knowledge about a subject, a practice, or a way of life, in this case, home education, but this applies to everything, often give rise to prejudice, mistrust, opposition, and even attacks on the subject. So we need to work constantly to overcome this prejudice and get back to basic. Parents are their children first and foremost educator. That's why also it's an human right, in fact. This is vision is to flourish, it needs to be explained and to be shared so that other people can embrace it and want to contribute. And we have a book with my wife about homeschooling, so homeschooling a fundamental freedom. And it's very easy to give the book to politicians, to etc. And to finish, last slide, a few figures about our association now in 3 years. So we have 2,500 member family, making us one of the France's largest home education association in just 3 years. Since the new law came into force, our association has been contacted every summer by 400 families who have been refused authorization to homeschool. So each day we have about 5 or 10 families who are contacting us about that. And sometimes it's like very often it's like a violence for them. So we are here to answer and to help them. So we have a team volunteer assist them with administrative appeals, which is a very important help for family. We have also assisted some 50 families before the French courts and trained several lawyers in this specific area, who can become renowned for their expertise. We are the first French association to have accompanied a family a few days ago before the European Court of Human Rights. We are still in direct contact with a dozen French deputies and senators, and a great deal of press coverage in recent months in the national press. In another interview this week again with my wife in Le Point, So very important publication. And for another example, in April, yes. And Tracy on the picture is here in Manchester. Yes, thank you, Tracy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, John, for your remarkable experience and perseverance and creating an impact. Thank you. I would like to now finally, our last speaker, Stephanie Lambert. Could you provide us with your perspective? Your perspective.
Yes, my perspective. I needed to be sure I knew what I was providing. Well, my name is Stephanie Lambert, and I'm the executive director of the state homeschool organization in Texas, and we serve the families of 750,000 homeschool students across the state. So I am here to share with you on the idea of vision. Cast the vision, find the help, get the win. So really, I'll be following up with what these guys have said. You have to know your purpose. You have to know where you're going in order to get the help if you want to recruit other people to help you in the important work that you're trying to do. And if you want to accomplish the important work that you're trying to do, you need to know what it is and where you're going. So I want us to remember today that a clear vision is the foundation of every successful organization. I don't know who we have in the room. Could I see a show of hands? Are you leading a homeschool organization? If you are leading or plan on leading some type of organization, could you raise your hands? Okay, good, several people in the room. I want to make clear that this concept applies to any type of leadership. So if you're leading your family, I hope to have children one day, and I would like to have a family vision. I want to be thoughtful about what direction that I'm going to go with my family. So any type of leadership you can apply this to. Leadership is difficult. As a leader of an organization, you have to make calls that people don't like, and people don't like you. They associate you with the decision that you had to make. You have to make the hard decisions. You have to work when people go home. You have to get to work before people are there. Whatever the case is, as a mother, as a homeschool leader, it's a difficult task. Viktor Frankl, the famous psychiatrist in the Holocaust, is famous for saying that you can bear with almost any how if you have a good why. So homeschooling your children is a difficult decision. It's not as easy, for some say, as sending your children off to public school. But why are you doing it? Leading a homeschool organization is not an easy decision, but know your why. So we're going to talk today about the importance of knowing your why and then how to define it for an organization. Apply it to a family as well if you'd like. All right, so these are reasons it's good to know your why. These are really practical reasons it's good to know your why. I don't know if any of you are like me, but it's difficult to know what to say no to. I have too much to do. If you have a clear why, you know what your purpose is, you know where you're going, then you can measure against that, and you'll know this doesn't fall into the goal. This just doesn't fall into my vision, so I'm going to say no. Having a clear why helps you attract volunteers. We need other people to help us. We cannot do it alone. Leadership is not doing something yourself. It's leading other people to accomplish a goal with you. So having a clear why helps you attract volunteers. Having a clear why helps you attract leaders. Listen to the difference of this. Hi, Shirley. Would you build a website for me? I need a website. You're asking Shirley, please do something. What if you tell Shirley, Shirley, I have an idea for creating an organization that is going to impact the world. We're going to help families raise the next generation of leaders, and they are going to change the world. Would you build a website for me? Notice the difference. Having a clear why and being able to communicate it and express it helps you to attract other leaders. And lastly, as Edric mentioned, having a clear why can help you prevent burnout. You're going to know what to say no to. You're going to have other leaders helping you. You're going to have volunteers. When you have a clear why and you communicate that why well, you're going to prevent burnout. Personally, I remember I had to do a project I really didn't want to do. I had to create a video, and it wasn't, I don't like starring in I don't like sitting for interviews and starring in our organizational videos. And I really had a bad attitude about it. And someone asked me, well, then why are you doing it? And I said, because I'm the executive director, and the executive director needs to be in the video. And I realized, I actually believe that parents homeschooling their own children are making an impact on the world and even the kingdom of God. Because in my perspective, I'm a Christian, and that's why I do what I do. And I realized this video is to that end. It's not because of the organization. It is to the end of the greater goal. And I kind of had to put it in perspective for myself. If I were trying to end the slave trade, like William Wilberforce, and all I needed to do to end the slave trade was create this video, I would create this video, and I wouldn't mind doing it. And I just had to think through for myself, what is my why? And then it took away the burnout. It took away the negative motivations, and it suddenly made me excited. So know your why and accomplish these things. All right, so how do you define your vision? So I'm going to touch a tiny bit on mission. Knowing your vision, it's a little bit like purpose. Knowing your vision is your why. The vision, why are we going to do what we're going to do? Your mission is your what. And I'm going to give you some examples of those things. So when you're defining your vision and your vision is your why, your mission is your what. All right, so how do we define our vision? For us as an organization, we got those, I don't know if you know these exist. Hopefully they exist in your country. They're these giant sticky notes, these big, big pads of paper, and then you just tear them off and you can stick them to the wall. You can use anything you want, but it's more fun if you use giant sticky notes. And so we took those and we put them on the wall, and we wrote these questions on the top of those sticky notes. It seems obvious, right? What do we do? But we just brainstormed until we couldn't get any more thoughts out. What do? We encourage parents. We bring in vendors to equip parents. How do we do it? We host conferences. We have coaches that people can call. We have a website. We went through what do we do, how do we do, and as we went through those steps, then we started coming down to why do we do it? Because remember, it's not easy, it's hard. Sometimes it's great. So as we filled these things out, it really helped us to come to some key clarifications. And those things, what we came down to is, what is it we actually believe? And then this laid the groundwork for us to define our vision. So I'm going to show you what we came to as one of our we believe statements. As we went through this process as a team, we actually came up with probably 5 we believe statements. And we keep these in front of us, like Edric was saying. We keep these in front of us, we remember them, and then it informed our vision. So this is the we believe statement that we came up with for our organization. We believe in empowering parents to raise and to educate the next generation of leaders. When we thought, why do we spend these long nights? Why do we sacrifice time with our families? Why do we make the hard decisions that make people dislike us? It's because we believe in empowering parents to raise and to educate the next generation of leaders. And when we stop and keep that in front of us, like Edric said, go back to that why, it renews that energy. And I can do that hard thing. I can make that video. Whatever it is that I have to do, this is why I'm doing it. And it's important and it matters. So we had a whole list of we believe statements. And then out of that came our vision. So this is the vision statement for our organization, and I give it to you just as an example for what yours could be. Our vision for our organization is that the next generation of leaders be raised up and that a foundation of freedom is established for families to the glory of God. This is our big, big goal. This is our why. Our advocacy work that we do in the legislature, our work that we do in the courts, our work that we do in conference planning, all of this is so that the next generation of leaders will be raised up. And not only that, that a foundation of freedom will be established. So then out of our vision, we thought, well, how are we going to accomplish this vision? There are many ways we could raise up the next generation of leaders. So we decided for ourselves, based on kind of what Edric was talking about, based on our strengths and our passions, this would be our mission. So this is the what that came out of that why. Our mission statement for our organization is that we encourage, equip, and advocate for families in their home education journeys, and we defend their liberty to raise their children as they see fit, very much like what's happening in France right now. So the vision is the why, the mission is the what that came out of that why. So if you have not yet selected board members, I encourage you find other people to join you in the cause. And then these are some more questions that you can ask yourselves as you work on developing your vision statement. What problem do we exist to solve? If your group could achieve its biggest goals, what would that look like? In an ideal world, what positive change or transformation would your group bring about? What values are most important to your group? What positive change do you want to see in the lives of the families and students that you serve? Ask yourselves these questions, get to the bottom of the why, and that's going to help you get to your group's why. So I'll give you this just so you can take a picture. I don't have much time, but this is a vision statement of a possible local organization that might have come out of a brainstorming session like I've discussed. Okay, so something key that I don't want to leave out is you have to, if you have a vision, it doesn't do any good unless you know it and think about it and communicate it. So I just want to encourage you, communicate your vision. First, define it, then communicate it. You're going to communicate it on every platform that you can. If you want to, you can put it at the bottom of your email signature. You can put it on your website. We put it at the beginning. I put it in my executive presentations at the beginning of every report that I make to the board. Just to remember, this is what we're here to do. We are here to see the next generation of leaders raised up. We're here to establish a foundation of freedom, and it just calibrates us. It just reminds us of what our goal is. So communicate it on every platform, communicate it consistently, communicate it when you are talking to other people. Attract strong leaders. Remember Martin Luther King Jr. He did not get up and inspire the world with a 4-step plan. Martin Luther got up and said, "I have a dream." And that attracted other leaders to join him. So we may not have time right now, but we can talk about other things that you can do to attract strong leaders, but know your vision and communicate that to people that you want to invite into the work with you. These things are things we can talk about later as well. Remember that having a clear vision is the foundation of every successful organization. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie. I don't know about you all, but I do have so much clarity about vision and mission after this. Thank you. Now we would like to open the floor to questions from our audience. Please raise your hand and I can call in. We can give you a mic.
Hi, I'm Anne Charles. I am setting up 2 organisations in the UK that focus on home education law and supporting home educating families in legal fights. It's fascinating to sort of see the perspectives from different countries. One of the things that we have here, so I'm taking it in the States, you seem to have quite large organisations with lots of funding. The problems we have here is that we are all volunteers, we're all doing it in our own time, we're all doing stuff at 2 a.m. up against government policy and civil servants who are being paid full time. So what kind of advice or suggestions have you got around funding streams and navigating the challenges of actually paying people for their time? Because we're way off that even being a thing at all. So yeah, how did you get from being a volunteer organisation to having people paid for their time?
Edric, would you like to answer that? We will be having a workshop. Yeah, we have one whole workshop on funding your organization. Maybe you can, you could go ahead.
That's not quite. So getting in sources of money is one thing, but that transition from being volunteer-led to actually moving into, yes, we're actually thinking about this as a professional thing.
Right, so if I'm understanding the question, it is, so you have a bunch of volunteers, how do you get to a state where your organization can support them financially? Is that what I'm hearing, right? I think depending on the model of the organization and the purpose. So I represent 2. One is a national organization, which is broad, right? And in that national organization of leaders, it's all volunteers. So it never in its purpose is designed to raise up people who can pay and sustain, because it doesn't collect revenues. Does that make sense? Or income streams. The GHEX is another organization where up until this point, so far, I'm looking at our fellow board members, all volunteer leaders, and that is its core purpose. It's just to serve and equip other leaders. Does that make sense? The other organization that I'm in is a private corporation, and the goal is obviously how do we provide services at a certain fee. So in its inception, it has always been a revenue generating stream, and therefore everybody is paid for the most part. What is interesting is what we've observed in that organization, and maybe this will speak to it somehow, your question of transitioning them. There are some roles which you want to keep pure, and I'll say that and I'll define that. What does that mean? In that organization, we have found moms who have been doing it for a decade or so, and to help encourage other parents, we say, hey, would you like to be part of this movement? And they're saying yes, and they're doing it voluntarily. How do we help support them and make it worth their while? We give them maybe incentives here and there, like a scholarship on the fees for their children to be part of the accreditation and all that, right? That would be one way. But I share that because even if the organization is designed in a certain way, clarifying the roles of the people and their core contribution will help you decide and define whether they will stay on a voluntary state or on a paid state. Does that make sense? I don't have any experience of transitioning them over. So if you guys wanted to speak to that, moving them from volunteer to a paid role, or if Ray wanted to speak to that as well, we could ask, since you're all here as well.
You should go first, Stephanie. You're the speaker this time.
All right. I'll just say briefly, my father was the founder of the organization that I work for, and he started out as a volunteer. So even when you hear you're a large organization, you're well-funded, it's just a matter of perspective, and it's just really been a matter of time. So he went to the board and basically said, I'm not able to do an excellent job of running this organization while I'm also doing another full-time job. And he asked the board what they would think about him becoming a paid employee and doing that full-time. And the board basically told him, if you can raise the funds, you can have a salary. So that's actually worked for us with other positions as well, where we identify, like Edric was talking about, where is the economic support coming from? And do we have a good model? And like the Bible says, the worker is worthy of his wages. So we wanted to do, basically our mindset was we wanted to do an excellent job. We want to put a lot of our effort and energy toward that. We weren't able to start there though. You have to start with, you do it all. Kind of like when you're starting your own business, you do the marketing, you do the content writing, you do everything right at the beginning. But then finding those things that fund the organization, going ahead and prioritizing those areas. So for us, it was a model of having a membership where people can purchase a membership. They can support the organization through the purchase of their membership. And then we give them the advice and the support and the legal assistance and that sort type of thing through their membership. And then we also do donations. So we take our vision and we go to donors and we ask them to support it. So we're supported by donations, by memberships, and then by sponsorships of people who want to communicate to our audience.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
about raising funds, we have 3 ways in Liberty Education. We have, first of all, the association of foundations who help us on specific projects. And also we have little donors. So we make emailings and crowdfunding with also special projects. For example, we need a fund to support families. So help us. We need, we give the budget, and to go to the European Court of Human Rights is very important. So give us, and people gives. And also we have major donors. It's people who have who can give us something very important, and it's because they want to support the cause. So you need to have a very high relation with them, and they will support also. And like that, it's working. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Thank you, John. Yeah, do you want to add something?
Sure.
Great.
As I've worked with different organizations, there's 2 different ways we see staff go to the paid staff. One is like Stephanie described, where the leader of the organization finds fundraising to be able to support that leader full time, and then the organization grows from that. But more commonly what I've seen is we have a specific service slot that we support just for that. So like a conference coordinator, and we pay the conference coordinator a little bit to run that conference, or we pay a newsletter editor or a website manager, and you start from there. But whichever direction you start, whether you start with the leader and then still use a lot of volunteers, that the leader oversees, or you start paying volunteers for their services and grow it that way. And whatever, it requires growth in the organization, growth in the funding, and so it gets you back to your vision and your mission. Where are we trying to go? What are we trying to do? How do we reach all the people we want to reach? And from there, if we're providing value, there will be ways for that value to become monetized.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ray. I think there was a question in the audience about the membership. Someone wanted to ask.
Well, I was going to at least ask a question because I've seen this as a challenge in a lot of organizations. So I'd like to get the perspective of the groups, of each of the folks up there, is the transition of leadership. How do you find new leaders? And if you have somebody on a board who isn't pulling their weight, who isn't really doing the job well, how do you get rid of them and get others there to be able to work with you? So kind of a two-part question. How do you find new leaders? How do you get rid of, we'll just call it dead wood?
I think let's make it three-part. Find and sustain and then fire.
Well, thankfully, I still have the clicker, so I'm going to go back to a couple slides earlier. How do you find other leaders? I believe that that God leads people to want to do major things. We all are created. Our purpose, when we're born, we're created for something important, and people want to do something important. So I want to start with prayer and asking God, lead me to the other people that want to do this. I want to start with a clear vision, like we talked about, clearly, and then speaking about it, you're asking, how do you transition? Start to email people who have been, anybody who has recently donated or supported your organization in some way is the most likely person to do that again. So look for people who are already contributing in one way or another to your cause. Start communicating with these people. You mentioned this, clearly define roles. So something that I think a way that we can lose potential other leaders and board members is if they come to us and they waste their time. I love to help, I love to serve, I hate to waste my time. So if I go to help an organization out and they don't have time to even tell me what to do, I'm going to move on. So it helps to put a box for every function and a name on every box. We have a conference that needs to be coordinated. We need a conference coordinator. We have fundraising that needs to be done. We need someone doing development. We have administrative work. We have an administrative position. So thinking through and naming a box for every function and then putting the name of a person or even the name of that title on that box. And then when those people come to you that you're praying for, when those people come to you, you actually have a job description that you can give them. Give them freedom to do the job. Another thing that's difficult is if somebody comes to you, they want to help, but you want to actually micromanage every decision they're making, you'll lose good leaders over that. Allow for failure. If someone can do it 50% as well as you, it might be better for them to do it than for you to do it, because then you can be doing other things. Remember that you're looking for somebody different from yourself. You don't need 10 yous. You need a lot of different personalities and perspectives and backgrounds. So look for variety in backgrounds. And then I would say, you talked about a handoff, Ray. I would say it's important that we all prepare for succession, because none of us are going to be in this position forever. So we should always be looking for somebody else that we are investing in, and they become our 80%. So that's what we have at our company, at our organization. Our goal is for all of our leaders to have someone else on their team that is their 80%. So that's what we call them, your 80%. They're 80% of you. They come to meetings when that person can't come to meetings, whatever it is. So even the people that you find, it may seem impossible right now because maybe you don't have anybody right now. But once you do have somebody, maybe in that job description, we include find someone else to do it with you. Yeah, and then recognize the people who are already doing it. Are they already doing what you're interested in doing? Are they already writing content? Are they already, helping other moms? Are they already doing these things? And just recognize that they are and ask them to join you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Do we have any more questions in the audience? Hey, so
Can I say something really quick?
yeah, quick.
Yeah, super quick. Just to add to that, I love the framework of knowing the stage that the organization is in, so you know what kind of leader is necessary for the transition. So what happened in our case, I talked about the Gallaghers earlier, and if you go to our booth, you get to meet Ryan. When you start an organization, I love this framework of you need to find a rock star. Someone who's very passionate, someone who will go and be like, let's go. I don't know where we're going, but let's go, right? That's me. If you get to know me a little bit, I'm that kind of guy. But at a certain stage, the organization needs to stabilize, to be ready to grow and really scale. In that case, you need a general. So how do you transition leaders and where do you find them? When you know the stage that you're in, then you will know the kind of person you are looking for. And it's a little bit of an art and science. In that stage, we found a partner setting up our Middle East operation in the form of Ryan Gallagher. And as we got to know him, we realized he's a great general. He's going to crack the whip, put systems, and move things along. So then we transitioned the leadership, and now he's running our whole organization, doing a great job. So that's one other added thing I would add to the answer is find the stage you're in so you know what kind of person you will need to get to that next level.
Thank you.
I just want to say
Yes,
something.
please.
For me, it's when you say "come with me," who touches people. So, for example, Amélie, I have a meeting in the French Assembly. I couldn't come. I called Amélie and could you come to you go to the French Assembly? And it's very important to do that, to get involved. And I have many examples for like that. Come with me to meet a deputy, and after that you give to this person the experience to meet a deputy, a minister, etc. So come with me.
Great. Thank you, John. Thank you. So training a leader to be, yes, Ray, you would like to add something?
No, I've got another question for the for the panel. One of the challenges that I see sometimes is organizations, they create goals, but they don't really have a strategy. When we ask, what's your strategy? And their strategy is 20 million homeschoolers within 20 years or something like that. There's a goal, wonderful goal, but they don't have any plan underneath it for actually getting there. And now, Edric, you did a great job of laying out how to go about doing that, but I was just wondering if anybody else has any guidance on how do you take that goal, that lofty goal, and turn it into actionable things to get things done?
I don't have a whole lot to add because, Edric, you said it really well. We use a similar framework. So we've determined we keep our vision and our mission in front of us. We have an annual meeting as a team where we discuss our goals for the year. We call them SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, timely. So they need to be all of those things. And then we think through where do we want to be for the year, and where do we need to be right now this year to achieve our overarching mission. So we set our annual goals as SMART goals, and then we actually go through at the same time and we break it down, like you talked about, into quarterly milestones. Where do we need to be each quarter toward these milestones? I think it's really important, like you said, to have visionaries on the team, to have dreamers, and people who can imagine what the world could look like if AI does this, or you know what I mean? Because some of us are like, I remember when texting became popular and I was like, why do I need to text? I would rather talk. And now I text all the time. I wasn't the visionary around texting, right? So I would say one really important thing would be to ensure that you've got visionaries and dreamers on your team who can really see into the future. And also you have those generals who can see, and this is a little bit more my personality, when my visionary, my dad is a visionary, when he's like, we're gonna do this, I can see in my brain all the steps. I can see what it's gonna take to get there. And so that's a good team. You need visionaries and you need generals and people who are implementers.
That's great guidelines, Stephanie, that you've shared. No matter what size of organization it is, it's a small, medium, or large, those are very valuable steps. Would you like to add something, Edric, before we close?
Yeah, no.
Okay, any more questions from the audience? Okay, so we still have a few minutes if anyone would like to add. Okay, there.
I have a question. So what if you have people who do not share your vision and your goals, but you require their expertise and they don't exactly fit the mold? How do you address that? And specifically for Lucinda, we hire teachers, and that's been terribly difficult at some times. We've made some mistakes. I just wonder if you have any ideas on how to select those people who do not exactly fit your vision and are not totally oriented to homeschool, although they may think they are. Okay.
I'll start with a question on how do you select, and then when you select and you realize after the fact that they're not on board as far as the vision is concerned, what do you do? I'll answer it in two parts. So what we found helpful, again, I'm sure there's a lot of wisdom here, but what we found helpful are 3 C's when you select people. As you share, initially you cast the vision, you tell them this is what we're about, you tell them the stage that your organization is in, so they come wide open, you work with the HR. But three C's, character, competence, and chemistry is so important, right? And I would say in that order, character, competence, and chemistry. A person can be very skilled, right? But is a liar. I mean, they steal money, and we've experienced this, right? To your face. So we let go of people because of character. Competency, this now answers the second question. What if they're not on board fully with the vision, but they've got good skills? Then step 1 would be put them in a role where their skills might be a better fit. So they realize this is what I'm really designed for and I can do in the organization. Then they have greater buy-in for the bigger purpose and vision you have. And if you've done that already and they still don't seem to find a fit, then that might be your way of telling them, hey, you know what? It's been a great ride, but this might not be the organization for you. And frame it from their standpoint. Does that make sense? So that's what I would do. Clear criteria, find a different role, see if that doesn't work out. If it does, great. We've seen people fly and suddenly come alive and do so much more than they thought they could. We've also seen people who've said, you know what, it's just not working out. And we've had to have hard conversations and said, it's time for you to find something better fit, purpose-wise for you.
I would totally agree with that. And I would say, know yourself. We have our core values outlined, and we know that we are these kind of people. We are strategic, and we are passionate. We're passionate about homeschooling. What does passionate mean? So, for instance, I'll tell you a couple of ways that applies. When we had a person apply to be on our team, she was recently from New Jersey. It's a state in the United States. Well, we're from Texas. And so that raised a flag for me because I wanted to know, are you passionate about Texas? Because we're Texas, and if you're not passionate about Texas, you're going to be annoyed by all the people who are, because Texans have a very specific personality. So know yourself, and be able to communicate that, right? And even in the process of finding someone, this is who we are, can you get on board with that? And then also, sometimes you have to have people with specialties. They can contract. Some people do contract work for the money that they get paid. So can we raise the money? Can we contract the specialist in that area that we need to do that technical thing? That's one option.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. Did that answer your question, John? Okay. All right. So I think we are right on time. Thank you to our great panelists for sharing their invaluable insights and experiences. Round of applause, please. And thank you to our audience for your thoughtful questions and engagements. This concludes our session. Thank you so much.